Well, it is 1 o'clock and we're going to go ahead and get started so that we make good use of our time today. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad that you're here. My name is Amber Johnson, and I think I have met most of you via email, if nothing else. I am the Chief Communications Officer here at the Center for Values-Driven Leadership, and this is big news. As of last month, I'm also a graduate of the program. So I am delighted to be here with you today because 3 or so years ago, I was in a similar position of asking questions about if I were ready for this. And so we're excited that you're here with us today, and we have some great folks for you to talk with who will introduce in just a minute. As we're getting started here, let me just acknowledge a few things. The first one being that, this is an in-person classroom-based program, but of course in this season right now, we are online because of the coronavirus. And so we'll talk about the program as a classroom-based program, but we're of course adhering to all the safety guidelines. And we want to just acknowledge that this has been a really disruptive season, and we hope that you and your families and your businesses are coming through this, and that in the challenges of it, it's been a chance for your values-driven leadership to really emerge. We also want to acknowledge that this has been a tumultuous season for our country as we come to terms once again with the racism that's inherent in our systems. And we want to publicly state as a center our commitment to addressing racism and to building inclusive organizations. And at the end of today's session, we'll say a little bit more about a way that you can be part of our work in that area. As we're getting started, let me just make a couple of comments. Of course, you're all familiar by now with the Zoom software. We're all Zoom experts these days. If you're joining us on the call, you can turn your cameras off and stay on mute. That'll help us cut down on the background noise. And if your children or your dog interrupts, then it'll be no problem at all. So feel free to turn those cameras off and stay on mute. But we do want to communicate with you throughout, and we'll be using the chat box to do that. So locate the chat box now, if you don't mind, and just keep an eye on it, because we'll share some links throughout this session where you can find more information. And then when we get to the second half of our call today, we'll be spending most of that time in Q&A, and you can submit your questions to me at any point in today's session using that chat box. And how we want you to do that is go ahead and find my name, Amber Johnson, in the to line of the chat box, select it, and then just type your question. And then when we get to the Q&A section, I'll moderate that. And we'll be delighted to answer any questions we can. Here's a quick look at the agenda where we're headed today. In just a minute, we'll do some introductions. And then Jim Ludema, the director of our program, is going to give us an overview of the program format, of the curriculum, of some of the things that make it distinctive. And then we'll hear from one of our current students on the program. And then we'll spend the bulk of our time really in Q&A. And we'll close out today with some next steps of how you can continue to learn more and where we are in the application cycle. And now it's my privilege to introduce you to Jim Ludema. Jim is the director of the Center for Values-Driven Leadership and a professor of global leadership at Benedictine. He's a recognized expert in workplace culture. Jim earned his PhD at Case Western Reserve University, and he's been teaching executive students here at Benedictine for the last almost 20 years. He's a leader in the study of appreciative inquiry, which is a leadership and organizational development model. And he's the author of a book on the topic, which is the definitive textbook. Jim's also one of the brightest minds and nicest guys you'll ever meet. When he's not working, he spends his free time cycling and traveling and enjoying time with his 5 grandkids, I believe soon to be 6 grandkids, right, Jim? All right, and Jim, you are on mute, but I'll turn it over to you to get us started today.
Great, thanks, Amber. Can you hear me now? Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for being on this online open house with us. Let me start by introducing the other folks on the call who are from the Center for Values-Driven Leadership. First, our panelist today is one of our current students, Jenna Lovett. And Jenna is the former Vice President of Manufacturing, Safety, and Quality for Boeing, Defense, Space, and Security. And in this role, she managed a global portfolio that included over 20 programs and 27 different plant facilities. with an eye on innovation. And previously, Jenna was the Chief Diversity Officer for Alcoa. And under her leadership, Alcoa won the 2013 Catalyst Award and the 2014 Human Rights Campaign's Corporate Equality Award. Jenna has an undergrad degree from The Ohio State University in criminology and an international MBA from the Baker Center for Graduate Studies. And as I mentioned, Jenna is a member of Cohort 5, currently in the program, and she just passed the midpoint of her coursework and is beginning to narrow in on her dissertation topic. And she's considering doing her dissertation on ethics in the C-suite and its impact on organizational culture. And let me just also say that in addition to being incredibly accomplished, Jenna is an absolutely delightful, compassionate, and caring colleague and person. Jenna, thank you very much for being with us today. Also on the call is Amber Johnson, whom you've already met, and as I'm sure you have discovered, she is exceptional. She's our Chief Communications Officer and Senior Research Associate, and is in charge of all of our marketing and communications and recruiting and thought leadership dissemination. And she is, as she mentioned, a graduate of our PhD program, just graduated in May. And she did her dissertation on exploring the success factors in leading global change initiatives. So congratulations, Dr. Johnson. And today, Amber will be sharing a little bit about the Center for Values-Driven Leadership, and then also moderating the open house and our Q&A session. Next, I want to introduce our core faculty and some of our distinguished visiting scholars. As you can see on the slide, there are 3 core faculty members in addition to me, none of which are on the call today. They are Marie DiVirgilio, Gus Gustafson, and Mike Manning. The Benedictine faculty, the 3 on the screen plus myself, anchor each class or each course and each class weekend. We set the curriculum and we provide support for students throughout the experience, throughout the program. Teaching alongside us as the core Benedictine faculty are our distinguished visiting scholars. And as you may already know, our distinguished visiting scholars are a key competitive advantage of our program over many others, because these are the top scholars from around the world who come in and teach in their area of expertise. In most cases, they're the scholars who wrote the books and the articles that you're reading for that particular course. And then they spend the weekend with you in class, over lunch breaks, in dialogue with you about their work and your work. And it's a very catalytic environment. Featured here are the 3 individuals who have won our Students Award for Best Distinguished Scholar. Anjan Chakravarti from the University of Miami, who teaches philosophy of science. Inger Stensacker of the Norwegian School of Economics, who teaches qualitative research methods. And Kim Cameron, a legend in the field of positive organizational scholarship and a professor at the University of Michigan. And he teaches in our Moral and Ethical Foundations of Leadership course. And you can find a complete listing of all of the visiting scholars on our website. But now let's move into just a little bit more about the Center for Values-Driven Leadership itself. And for that, I'll turn it back over to you, Amber.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just say a couple of words about the center. As you can see on the slide there, our mission, our purpose is to help values-driven leaders develop themselves and others so they can build flourishing companies and transform business and society. And when we talk about values-driven leadership, we mean the idea of doing business the right way. It's about really being clear and confident about your own core values, and then building values-based organizational cultures that can promote flourishing at every level. We're talking about values like honesty, like integrity, like care and compassion, excellence and accountability, inclusion, meaning, purpose, and all of those things that contribute to the greater good. Our purpose is to help change the way business is done, and by studying values-driven companies, telling their stories, and developing their leaders. And in practically speaking, we do that by focusing on three things: research, education, and what we call practice. On the research side, as staff and faculty and students, we're engaged in a number of projects that focus in some way on the link between culture and value and performance. For example, my classmate, David Barnett, is focusing his research on how values are transmitted within intergenerational family business and how that influences various measures of performance. There are two other students in my cohort named Selwa and Angie who are both looking at different practices for building inclusive organizations and active strategies that drive inclusion and contribute to superior performance. And personally, as Jim said, I really focused on leading successful global change projects and seeing what makes them successful as you work across all of the complexity of different languages and cultures and currencies and time zones and all of that. So it's a broad range of topics that we focus on within that research category. On the education side, we have the PhD and DBA program. We have a master's program in values-driven leadership that we offer inside companies in a variety of customized formats. And then we have non-degree executive education opportunities, including one we'll share at the end of the day.
I got this spreadsheet open. I just want to make sure,
Okay, there we go. In terms of practice, we offer consulting services and we offer customized executive education programs, leadership development programs for different companies. And we also offer senior executive roundtables each year. These are training, learning experiences where usually we gather together about 100 people or so on our campus and spend a Friday afternoon face-to-face, exploring issues of leadership alongside our doctoral students. And we bring in really the top minds to explore topics that you're interested in, like emotional intelligence or leading change, leading teams, working with millennials, building positive organizational culture. And then of course, we also, within that practice category, do a lot of thought leadership. Perhaps some of you are familiar with the Forbes.com column that we also publish. So that's a quick overview of the center and who we are. The doctoral program is the biggest piece of that. So Jim, tell us a little more.
Sounds good, Amber. Thank you. As you may know, we started the PhD DBA program in values-driven leadership in 2011, and we're currently recruiting for our 6th cohort, which will start next April. You can see many of our graduates and current students, and we're incredibly proud of the work that they do and the people that they are. They're in the program. There are executives changing the way business is done in major corporations like Ford Motor Company, Exelon, Allstate, and Boeing, like Jenna. We have founders and CEOs of small to mid-sized firms like Phoenix Boats that makes the bass boats that you'll see in bass fishing competitions, Inspera Health, Blue Trail Software. We have commanders in the U.S. Armed Forces and senior leaders in nonprofit organizations and higher education organizations such as the Girl Scouts and Xavier University. And it's really these values-driven leaders, these students of ours, these alumni of ours, who are instrumental in helping us receive recognition as the #1 PhD program in leadership from HR.com in 2017 and 18. And we suspect that we would have won it in 2019 and 20 as well, but they discontinued that particular award. But we're just incredibly proud of and grateful for the tremendous students that we have in the program and the alumni. Next, I want to share with you a little bit about the format and curriculum of the program, and then walk you through some of the features that we think make it distinctive. And I'll move quickly to save time, because to save time for the Q&A, which we have dedicated time more towards the end. So feel free to start sending Amber your questions using the chat function. In terms of the format of the program, as most of you know, it's a 3-year program. And in the first 2 years, you attend classes 1 weekend a month, starting at 6:30 on Friday and running through 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. And then also we have a 8-day intensive in June in each year in the first 2 years. And this format allows students to fly in from across the country and around the world to attend class. Then in the 3rd year of the program, you don't need to come to campus. you work with your dissertation committee to conduct original research about a topic of your choice. So that's the way the program is traditionally formatted. And the reason, and it's a fully face-to-face program. And the reason that it's a fully face-to-face program is that our students tell us that that's what they want. They want to be able to be in that room with those other high capacity students, to be in the room with those distinguished visiting scholars that come in from across the country and around the world, and to be in the room with our core faculty at Benedictine University, because it's a catalytic environment for learning. And so our hope is to be able to keep it as much face-to-face as possible. With the coronavirus, as Amber mentioned earlier, we are not entirely sure how things are going to unfold. We have gotten fairly adept at using Zoom and doing online teaching. So if we have to use that, we will. But our hope is to be able, our hope is that, what is the word I'm trying to think of? Not an antidote, but anyways, a vaccine. That's right. A vaccine for the coronavirus will be developed and developed soon, and we can get back to face-to-face teaching. But we're not entirely sure how that will play out over time. Moving on then to the curriculum. Our curriculum covers 4 main areas: global leadership, strategic change, corporate responsibility, and then of course research methods, so that you're prepared to do your own research for your dissertation in the 3rd year. And we look at each of these topics through the lens of what it means to lead yourself, lead others, lead organizations, and lead more broadly in society. And you can find a full list of the classes and descriptions on our website, and I encourage you to read through them because there's some good information there on the website. Also, as a part of our curriculum, you attend 3 conferences during, I should say at least 3 conferences during your time in the program. In years 1 and 2, these conferences are part of the regular curriculum. In year 1, you attend the leading conference in the field of management, the annual meeting of the Academy of Management. Last year it was in Boston. This year it was going to be in Vancouver, but has been turned into a virtual conference because of the coronavirus. Then in year 2, you attend the annual conference of the International Leadership Association this year. It is in San Francisco. And so far, it looks like they still plan to hold it. We don't know for sure, of course. And the International Leadership Association Conference is the leading conference for leadership scholars around the world. And both of these conferences are phenomenal opportunities to meet with top thinkers in the field, to explore cutting-edge research on topics you're passionate about, and to present your own work and get feedback from scholars who are coming in from around the world on stuff that you're interested in. Finally, you also have a requirement to attend 1 global conference of your choice at some point in the program. And our students and faculty have traveled to different parts of the world for this, such as Belgium, Dubai, France, India, Ireland, Italy, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Spain, the UK. And we go to these conferences and we engage in high quality learning exchanges with top scholars and executives from other countries and cultures. And we made these conferences a part of the required curriculum because we found that the students who attend these conferences make better, faster progress in their understanding of the research and the fields of study, and better, faster progress on their dissertations once it gets to that. And also we have just a lot of fun traveling to those conferences and being together. So it's something you can look forward to. Now I'd like to just touch on a few of the distinctives of the program. And the first is that our program really is for senior business leaders who want to change the world through business and who love to learn. And this is based on the idea that business is currently the most powerful institution on the planet and the institution with the greatest potential to influence positive change. So we're looking for people who share this conviction and want to be a part of a learning community that will help them advance their life and advance their careers in this direction, all from a values-driven perspective. And second, I say it's for people who just love to learn, because it's different than any other doctoral program out there, whether it's a traditional doctoral program, an executive doctoral program, or an online doctoral program. Ours is designed to help you grow as a leader, as a scholar, and as a person. And we found that the students who thrive most in the program are those who really open themselves to the world of ideas, who jump in with both feet and explore as many theories and models and perspectives and experiences as possible, and then engage in deep, meaningful dialogue and learning with others. The third distinctive is that it is a scholar practitioner program. And that means that the faculty and visiting scholars bring their best, most cutting edge ideas into the classroom. And then students like Jenna and Amber do the same. And then together we build new theory, do new research, and test them in the world of practice. So in this program, you're not a consumer of knowledge the way you would be in an undergrad or a master's program. You become a creator of new knowledge, new ideas, new models, new approaches that you and others can apply in your organizations, and then also write up and publish to advance the state of the art of the field. Now, that said, we know that many of you have not been in the classroom for years, at least potentially. But that is not a problem, because we'll come alongside you and make the transition into being a scholar practitioner as painless as possible. One of the things that we do, there are many things, and we'll mention some of them as we go forward, but one of them is that we have a world-class writing coach for students in the program. Her name is Joanna Beth Tweedy. She's actually a graduate of our first cohort of the PhD program. And she's also a faculty member at Western Governors University in the field of English and writing. And she gives you coaching on your writing in an incremental way throughout the program to help with that process of getting back into writing in a scholarly way. The next point I want to make about the program is that it really is a student-centric program. It's focused on the student and helping the student be successful in his or her career aspirations and goals. And it's student-centric in a number of different ways. First, it's designed to be completed in 3 years compared to most PhD programs, which are a 5 to 7 year commitment. And as we've already discussed, the format allows you to be in class on the weekends and then still put in a full week of work. And you can select from one of two tracks, either a PhD degree, which is a more research-focused degree, or a DBA, which is a more practice-oriented degree. And then all the coursework is scheduled from day one in the program, even before day one in the program. As you're applying for the program, we ask you to write an essay. And then all of the work after that is scheduled to help you make progress towards your dissertation as you go through the program, so that and then you can focus your dissertation on pretty much any topic you want to within the field broadly defined around leadership, strategic change, and corporate responsibility. You also get an unusually high level of faculty, staff, alumni, and fellow student support. We are a community of learners that is fully committed to your success. And you get to do all of this in the new state-of-the-art building, the Goodwin Hall of Business. Next point I'd like to make is that we strive to make the program a truly global learning community. We bring in as much diversity into the student cohorts as possible, and then much of the teaching, as I already mentioned, is done by visiting scholars who come from leading universities around the globe. And you, as I mentioned, you also take the international trip and go to the international conference and build connections with scholars and practitioners in different parts of the world. And we believe this is vital for values-driven leaders today as globalization is changing the way we work. I think the last thing I want to say is that the program is truly a transformational learning experience. Our students tell us that the program is distinct in its ability to transform them personally, professionally, and as a scholar. And we provide a safe and inviting space in which you can sort of find your edges and push your edges and open yourself to personal and professional transformation. And in the program, you'll make lifelong friendships and test the boundaries of your knowledge and your discipline and your resilience. And you'll dig deeply into what truly matters to you. And that'll allow you to rethink the way you lead and the way you serve. And you'll see the results, not just in the diploma, but in the way you lead and work as well. So I think that's a kind of a snapshot of the program. And now what I'd like to do is give you a chance to hear from Jenna about her experience in the program. As Jenna speaks, please continue to send any questions you have, comments you have to Amber using the chat box. But Jenna, let me turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about your experience in the program.
Great, Jim. Thank you. You know, I'll be the first person to say that I was extremely nervous. I made a promise to my dad years ago that I would continue with my education, and life happened and the time never seemed right. Something instinctively said, you know, now is the time. And so once I made the decision, I realized that it was going to be a lot of work. Jim described my former role at Boeing, and it was tough. But I will say what distinguishes this program for me is it has afforded a safe haven to really be able to allow for self-examination in a way that I have never had before. And I think that's really important, particularly when you're running a business. My experience has been that you don't really get that opportunity, but this has afforded that. Jim spoke about the visiting scholars. They really are top-notch. They're a diverse group of individuals, and they really encourage constructive debate, higher learning, and questioning. And it's so different from graduate school, because here you are part of the solution. Here you're not just consuming things to undergo some type of test. Here what you say may influence an author or one of these professors to, you know, construct a new edition. They may go back and reconsider some things and change some things based on what you believe and what you've shared. And so I think that is so important in self-growth and in making this world we live in a better place. And then last but not least, I would speak about my cohort. I've done online classes before. This face-to-face is game-changing. I have developed relationships that are going to be for the rest of my life. And just having that human interaction is something that I think in our education, particularly if you're going to pursue a DBA or a PhD, it's integral. And I guess the last thing I would say is I could not have done it. The school you attend, the institution you attend, the professors that you work with, they do matter. And I really feel as though I have a family here. So, Jim, I think I'll leave it there unless there are any questions. It's hard work. Be very clear about that. It's hard work. There are deadlines. But I'm here to say that you absolutely can do it. And the feeling that you get, I've changed. I have just absolutely changed as a result of it.
Terrific, Jenna. Thank you very much for those words. And now what we'd like to do is, Amber, I turn it over to you to sort of moderate the Q&A, and you, Jenna, and I can all respond to any questions and give any comments that are appropriate.
Terrific. This group knows how to use the chat box. We have a lot of questions teed up. So let's see how many of these we can get through. Jim, the very first question that came in is this one. What's the difference between the PhD and the DBA? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah. I said that the PhD is a more research-oriented degree and the DBA is a more practice-focused degree. And I think that that's sort of the basic descriptor, but here's how it works. You come into the program and you do the 2 years of coursework, and then you don't have to decide whether you want to do the PhD or the DBA until the end of the second year. You know, when it's time to start getting into your dissertation, then you got to decide whether you want to pursue the PhD track or the DBA track. So you can sort of go through the program and sort of feel it out a little bit before making that final decision. But the basic difference is this, that when you do the PhD track, you use conventional research methods. So you use quantitative research methods or qualitative research methods or mixed methods to do you know, traditional scholarly research on a topic of interest to you. And then you write up the results and the discussion of that study with the intent of contributing to the literature. So that's why it's a more scholarly degree. You're using conventional research methods and you're writing with the intent to be published and to influence the literature and the state of the art of the thinking in the field. In the DBA degree, it's, I say, a more practitioner-oriented degree. You go through the same 2 years of coursework, but then when it's time to do the dissertation, we ask you to do some kind of change project in your organization, a leadership development project, a large-scale change project, or it could be in your community, and then to write up essentially a robust case study around that, in which you draw from the literature that you have, you know, knowledge you have gained from the program, to write up lessons learned from that case study. So you don't have to use conventional research methods, and you don't have to write with the intent of influencing the literature. It's more to help your organization with a robust case study and lessons learned.
Great, thank you. Jenna, a question for you. People are asking about the sort of scholarly jump from an MBA program to a doctoral program. How is that jump, especially in terms of writing?
Well, in terms of writing, I think it's very important that we learn to express ourselves using format. So the APA 7th edition has become a trusted friend. There are requirements that we follow that. But there are also times when it's just a free form and you're just free to just write the paper. I would say it's made me better. And Grammarly also is a very good friend. It's made me better. And I think being able to express ourselves, particularly from a research standpoint and a practical standpoint, is important. There's more, I would say, than at the MBA level, but I find it infinitely more enjoyable at this level because it is more of what I think versus being able to regurgitate what you're taught and being graded on how well you express that.
That was well said. Thank you. All right, Jim, how early do people have to solidify their dissertation topic, and what does making that decision look like?
That's a great question, because you know, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety around this. And, you know, some people come into the program and they say, I know exactly what I want to do my dissertation on, and, you know, I'm locked on and I want to get going on it. Others come in and say, I have no idea what I want to do my dissertation on, and when am I ever going to discover that topic? And so there's a real range, but my experience would suggest that I would say 90% or more of the students who come into the program change their dissertation topic at least once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times throughout the course of the program, because with each new visiting scholar coming in, each new reading you're doing, each new conversation you're having with your fellow students, you're sort of developing your own thinking. You go to the conferences and you hear stuff you never even knew existed, and so it changes the way you might think. And so earlier I said that, you know, the program from day one really helps you get prepared to do your dissertation. And so, you know, we've got the content courses in that first year, but we encourage you in each of those content courses. Let's say you're doing a course on leading self. We encourage you to, if you have to write a paper for that course, to write it in the direction of a potential dissertation topic. Then you get into the next course, leading teams, and we encourage you to write the paper for that course to help you make progress on your dissertation. So you're constantly thinking about it throughout the 2 years of coursework. Then every 6 months or so, we dedicate a chunk of a weekend for people to present their dissertation topics. So for example, Jenna would put together a 4 PowerPoint presentation and say, here's a potential topic I'm interested in looking at. Here's how I want to look at it. Here's what I think I might find. And then she gets feedback from the other students in the cohort and from the faculty about that topic. Then Jenna might go to the Academy of Management conference and then, present there, or go to other sessions and learn and sort of refine her topic. And then 6 months later, we come back again and have another session like that. And we have multiple sessions like that throughout the program where students can think about their topic, refine their topic, and get input from others, both in class and at the conferences I mentioned. And so it's really not until, at least 18 months into the program that you really need to nail down your topic. And I think that was the case for you, Amber. I think that you had multiple different ideas that you wanted to consider working on. I think one was around leading change and appreciative inquiry. One was around this topic of global leadership. One was around virtual teams. And in the end, you finally homed in on that topic of how do you successfully lead global change projects, that sort of brought all those different strands together. But I think that wasn't until quite late in the second year that you actually converged on that. And that's perfectly fine. The program is set up to help you discover that and then be successful at doing the research once you get into that third year and you're working full-time on your dissertation.
And let me just add that we do have a really short 3-minute video called How Your Ideas Become Dissertations that's on our website. I don't have access to the link right now, but you could just search ideas on our website and find it. And it'll walk you through the process Jim just showed very visually so that it makes a lot of sense. So I'd encourage you to check that out. We have several questions around tuition and financial aid. So I'll just take that question really quickly. The program is $40,000 a year for the 3 years of the program. That includes your textbooks. And so how it works, you come to class on Friday night and your textbooks are there waiting for you, or in this season, they show up on your doorstep via USPS. And so that's a definite benefit. Some folks have asked about if there's financial aid available. Most of our students do qualify for federal student loans. There are not a lot of scholarships or grants available for executive students, but we encourage you to go searching for them because sometimes they are available. Most of our students finance their degree through employer contributions or military benefits, through their personal savings and through the student loans. And so we encourage you to look into those options covering for it. Somebody also asked if conference fees are included as part of the tuition, and they are not. However, the conference weekends do replace a class weekend. So if you're traveling in from out of state, instead of flying to Chicago, you would fly to the conference location. And so to some extent, those expenses can cancel themselves out. All right, I think that covers that. Jenna, a question for you. How much time does this take? How much time do you spend on a weekly basis studying for the program, reading, doing your work, catching up? What does it take?
I guess it all depends on what's due, but as we, in the second year, as I've advanced in the second year, I find that I spend 90 minutes at a minimal a day. I sometimes more. These last few days, this last week, it's been almost nonstop. So I think it depends. When I was fully, and I will add full disclosure, I am not working at a full-time job now. So I have more time to devote to studies. But when I was really in the thick of things, I find keeping up with it every day, spending some time every day enables you to stay on track. And I don't mean to be sketchy on this. It just depends. Some things will require more studying than others. For example, when we got into philosophy, that required a little bit more. I had to read things a couple of times to be able to understand it. But I should also say I am the poster child for if I can get it done and still sleep, anyone can do it. It is definitely manageable.
Yeah. Yeah, I can elaborate that or share my own experience as well. And in fact, every cohort, as they finish their classwork, we poll them and ask them how many hours they spend on a weekly basis. And they tell us 12, 15, 20, somewhere in that range of 12 to 20 a week is the average. But that varies widely based on the week, like Jenna said, and some classes are more challenging and some are more self-reflective, and that can be processed a little faster. And you also know when you leave class on Sunday night what has to be done before you meet the next month. And so when I had a busy week at work or with my family, and I have 2 kids at home, you know, I could move things around to make space for the program in the following weeks and sort of adjust. I was an early morning person, but I know other people were late at night or all weekend, and you know, you just find the hours to get it done.
I'm a night owl, so I was at nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah, I am a muffin by 10 p.m. I'm falling asleep with my highlighter in my hand. Jim, what happens if the program can't go back to being face-to-face when this cohort's scheduled to start?
Man, I hope that doesn't happen. You know, I know that already for the fall at Benedictine University, they are planning on using a model that they call HighFlex, which is a model in which you can do face-to-face and you can do online. I think that, you know, presumably, you know, next spring will be our capacity to do more face-to-face will be even greater. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to do face-to-face. If we are not, we will continue, you know, using Zoom and the other, obviously, the, I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but the learning software that we have at Benedictine University is called D2L. And that's where all of the articles that you have to read are posted, and assignments and syllabi and all that kind of stuff. And I know that Zoom and D2L sync very well together. So, you know, the course weekends, since we have been in stay-at-home mode with the coronavirus, with the current cohort, we've been doing them on Zoom. We stick with the same schedule, you know, Friday night from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Time, 9 to 4 on Saturday, 9 to 4 on Sunday, Central Time. And it's really like a doctoral seminar virtually. And so, you know, you've got the screen up in front of you, and if you go to gallery view, you can see all of your fellow cohort members. You can see the distinguished visiting scholar. You can see the Benedictine University faculty person. The faculty and the visiting scholars will lecture and present their information. There'll be dialogue and discussion, sometimes activities where, you know, small groups will go off into breakout rooms of 6 or 4 or 8 people to discuss a topic or do some kind of activity or do some kind of assessment. Very much like what we do when we're in class face-to-face, but obviously in a virtual environment. And I don't know, Jenna, you could speak to it better than I could, but so far, I think that it has gone very well. And I think a large part of that is, you know, our faculty member, Marie DiVirgilio, has been doing a lot of the teaching lately, and she is very good at, you know, paying attention to the detail that needs to be paid attention to make it work. But then the other thing is the students, you know, and just the sort of etiquette and decorum and, you know, sort of respectful dialogue that they engage in that online environment. So that's a very long answer to say, I'm hoping that we can go back to face-to-face, at least as much as possible. If not, we will probably continue with the Zoom D2L platforms. Jenna, would you like to say anything more about that?
Enjoy it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I absolutely have enjoyed it. I thought that there would be a marked difference in the quality of our education, but it has not been. And I think, as Jim alluded to, it is the quality of the cohort. We're not too large, so everyone is able to more than weigh in, and the instructors are as well very good. So for me, Jim, I have not shared this with you, but you know, I certainly hope we can get back in class. I'm in the DC area, Virginia right now, but if something happens and we can't, the quality of my education has not slipped. I am enjoying this.
That's great to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great to hear. And, you know, obviously it does save on time and money for travel and things like that too. So there's a trade-off whichever way you go, but yeah.
You just mentioned the size of the cohort, Jenna. Someone had asked about that. There are 24 in your cohort. There were 17 in mine. Somewhere between the two of those is sort of the average, and we would expect cohort 6 to be about the same size. So that addresses one of the questions we received. And Jenna, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that you're in Virginia, in the DC area. What is it like commuting for classes when we are able to be face-to-face? Tell us about that experience.
Well, given that classes, when I was with Boeing, it was very easy because I would just go into our Chicago office and work for the day and then just head on over. As classes began at 6:30 Central Time on a Friday evening, what I do now is what I would do prior to COVID is just fly in Friday afternoon, check in at the hotel, spend a few moments before coming to class. That first Friday, I think you guys have done a really good job in understanding that people are coming off of a long work week, and class is fun. It's stimulating. It isn't too taxing. We take appropriate breaks, and it's easy peasy. And then you're able to get a good night's sleep and come in Saturday. And generally, when class is over, a few of the cohorts and I will grab dinner. And it still leaves enough time to go back and prepare before getting into bed for the next day. And then now Sundays are a little long. I mean, because we get out at 4, and then I head to the airport. I turn in my car, I head to the airport, and I usually get back to DC here around 11:30 p.m. Getting up in the morning, again, has not been an issue. Most of the time, if I have any fatigue, it's just because there's been a delay at the airport, and that has made the day longer. But you're doing this because you want to be there, and the stimulation that you get from the classes, I find personally, they don't drain me. They serve to fortify me.
Yeah.
So that's my experience.
Great, thank you. And I know someone asked if dorms were available on campus. They haven't been to this point. We find most of our students are more comfortable at hotels, and we keep a running list of hotels that offer really affordable rates for Benedictine students and families. So that's what most folks do, and they find the one that they're most comfortable in and book the same place every time.
Yeah, and we're surrounded by
so Amber,
great hotels. Right.
Yes, I was just going to add that my place of choice is the Marriott. They're right there in Naperville, not too far from the school, very easy to get there and get back. They know us, and the rate is $92 a night. So, and they're very good, and they take care of us as Benedictine students.
Yeah.
So that part of it is very easy.
Yep. Jim, tell us about the international students in the program and the percentage of students in each cohort that have been international.
Boy, I don't know, Amber, you may have a better feel for that than I would. You know, I think that actually carry a passport from a different country, you know, maybe 2 per cohort. I know, you know, Tina Husing in cohort 2 commuted from Germany. Francisco Vasquez in cohort 4 commuted from Guadalajara, Mexico. Enrique Lopez from Monterrey, Mexico. Basil Chen from, I think it was Toronto. Canada. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, we have a lot of students in the program who may have been born elsewhere, but are now currently living and working for companies in the U.S. or, you know, global companies based in the U.S. But students that actually commute from other countries, it's maybe only 1 or 2 per cohort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then several folks do hold international passports, but live in the United States, like Gamini from Sri Lanka is in Jenna's cohort, Fiona, who's British. And so it brings a flavor and new perspectives, and it pushes us to include diverse courses or diverse authors in our dialogue as well, in our reading list as well. And a follow-on question from that, Jim, tell us about accreditations.
We are accredited by what is the accrediting body? Amber?
Higher Learning Commission.
The Higher Learning Commission. It used to be they had a different name before.
Yeah,
and that's
North
why
Central, and now it's just,
North Central something now. Yeah, we're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, fully accredited program. Yeah.
Yep, terrific. And I'm going to ask one more question for you, Jim, and then we'll start to wrap up. Tell us about the average job title of the person in the program. And, you know, we say it's for senior executives. What does that mean?
I think it means exactly that. You know, and we do have a lot of very senior executives. For example, you mentioned Gamini. He has got 2 or more than 2 businesses, one in Sri Lanka, one here in the US. He's the founder and CEO of both of those companies. You know, I mentioned Phoenix Boats, Teresa Johnson in the current cohort. She is the CEO of that company, and I think she also owns some other companies. Dave Schreiner, CEO of KSB Hospital System out in Dixon. And so we have a number of people who are CEOs or in the C-suite. You know, and then we have folks like Jenna, who is, you know, a very senior executive in one of the largest companies in the world. Cheryl Harris is similar, the chief procurement officer for Allstate Insurance Company. And so we have a number of people sort of in large corporations like that at very senior levels. We have people also who are VPs, senior directors, you know, and so we do have a range, but it is for, you know, the target audience is senior executives. And we are very intentional about that because we find that senior executives really want to talk with other senior executives and pick their brain and understand their experience and learn from them. And it's also true, as Jenna mentioned, I think that's why the distinguished visiting scholars love to come to our program, because people like Jenna and people like you, Amber, are helping them to take their theories and their models and move them to the next level based on your experience in organizations. Now, you know, that said, we also do bring in a few folks who may not be in very senior levels into each cohort. And part of the reason for that is we also want to, you know, bring in folks who may be newer in their careers, less senior in their careers, let's say, who show a lot of promise and who bring in interesting ideas and so on into the program as well. But in general, it's focused on senior leaders.
Great. All right, the final question goes to you, Jenna. Tell us one way you're different today than you were when you began this program. You mentioned it was transformative. How so?
I'm a lot more self-aware. You know, I have been through every program imaginable for development from a business perspective. And I consider myself pretty savvy there. And I also feel that I mastered a lot of that. What has been different is you're not really encouraged to accomplish the and. It's an either or scenario, at least from my experience in business. This has enabled me to think very differently about how I approach business. And I thought I was a very transformational leader. And, you know, not to pat myself on the back, I did a lot of really good things, but several times, more times than I'd like to count, I said, boy, I really wish I had gone through this program right as I became a senior executive, because I would have done a lot of things more differently. So I think, to sum it up, I approach things differently. The humanistic piece of accomplishing business is doable with this program. So the research makes it a lot more than just a touchy-feely kind of thing. It's the research that has helped solidify how I want to lead going forward.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. As we begin to wrap up today, I want to just share with you a couple of ways you can continue to explore the program. I think most of you have probably found this page of our website. It's our website /doctorate, and each of those links on there, those orange links, will take you to much richer content, deeper into the questions we covered today, deeper into the curriculum. There are lots of videos. You can find that, how your ideas become a video there. You can read bios of Jenna and all of her classmates. You can even read dissertations if you want to. And so if you're trying to figure out if this program makes sense for you, if it's the rigor and relevance you've been looking for, we encourage you to go here and spend time on those links. We also encourage you to sign up for our October 8th workshop. We do these twice a year. They're called Preparing for Your PhD. And today we covered sort of the basics, the format of the program, the way it works, the curriculum. In the Preparing for Your PhD workshop, we talk about how do you come back into scholarship after you've been out for a while, and how can you help prepare your work and your family and your personal life to be prepared for the commitment it takes. So I encourage you to attend that. And if that date isn't available for you, or if you're just curious to get that information now, the website you see there on the screen has a recording of our last session from earlier this spring, and you could watch that as well. To let you know where we are in our timeline, we're now accepting applications. We are almost at the midpoint of our application season. The deadline's November 2nd, but there are several pieces to the application process. It takes some time to get it done, and so it's not something you can really wait until the deadline to move forward with. So if you are considering this, I would encourage you to get your application in the door in the next month, and then begin working on the letters of request or letters of reference and the transcripts and things that go with it, so that so that you have a clear path and can begin planning for your own future. And if you apply and are accepted and enroll, then you would begin orientation April 8th. And so that's a date you can put on the calendar, and we hope to see you there. Let me add that I am a resource for you at any point if you have questions. I know there were a couple of questions we didn't get to cover today, and I'll try to reach out personally to people about those. But I'm happy to schedule a one-on-one call to just talk through your own concerns or interests, and answer any questions you have. And you have my email, so just reach out to schedule. In closing, I want to invite you to attend a special workshop next week. On Friday, which is the 155th anniversary of Juneteenth, we'll be hosting this session, How Leaders Can Address Racism and Care for Colleagues of Color. And you can see the link there to register. It is free. We encourage you to attend and bring your colleagues. The keynote speakers are Laura Morgan Roberts from the University of Virginia, who is one of the world's leading thinkers on diversity and organizational culture. And then also Selwa Rahim Dillard, Dr. Selwa Rahim Dillard, who graduated last month from our PhD program, and who leads diversity and strategy for US Cellular. And then Cheryl Harris, who is the Chief Procurement Officer at Allstate and is a fellow student along with Jenna in Cohort 5. These women are brilliant, and they are so kind to give us their time to help us think through how we can move to action in this season. And so we encourage you to join us on that day. And Jim, with that, I'll turn it over to you for some closing comments.
Great. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us on this webinar today. And maybe to sort of summarize, we're looking for a dynamic group of senior leaders who want to change the world through business with a values-driven approach. People who love to learn and love to grow and develop as leaders and scholars and as persons. And people who want to push the frontiers of the field, both in terms of theory and practice, and who want to be part of a global learning community of like-minded, smart, fun, values-driven leaders. And we hope that you are one of those persons. So thank you very much for being here with us today. Jenna, thank you so much for being on the webinar, and you too, Amber, very much appreciated. And with that, we are adjourned. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. So
Thanks,
long.
everyone.